Well, we've moved on to the power steering gear, and I power washed it. I don't really see any trace of any paint at all on this thing. Um, it looks like bare metal. I didn't even get all the grease off of it. It's really stuck on there. But I was able to get this shaft off pretty easy. The Pitman arm there. I used a puller, and after I got a little pressure on a little tap on the bottom, and she popped right off. So that wasn't in too bad a shape. And it looks like that ball is in really good shape too. There's really no flat spots on it, just minimal wear. So that's not a problem. So we'll start the disassembly on this. I have to get the book out because this is something I have never done before. And I've got all the seals and everything, thanks to Willie. He posted those on his website, and I was able to punch in those numbers and order them right up. So I've got all the seals. I just got to match up some O-rings and possibly make a gasket or two. So we'll get her apart. Well, I got most of it apart. If you can see, most likely I didn't have a problem with the seal of the power steering fluid leaking into the gearbox, because it looks like that stuff's been in there since 1955. Really nasty. The one thing I didn't do yet, I should have probably done first, is go ahead and take my horn wire off of the contact ring here and solder that. Um, pull that wire out here, and then I have to get this collar off so I can go ahead and disassemble all this and pull the shaft out that way. So I got a big mess right here, and probably show a little more detail of it assembling than taking apart. The book is pretty straightforward about what to do, but I probably would have done this first before I did anything else, but that's okay. We can do it now and go ahead and get the rest of it apart. Alright, we're going to try to unsolder this wire here. It shouldn't take too much heat, I wouldn't think. There we go. That's all it took to pop that off of there. So that was not a problem at all. And the next thing we're going to have to do is to slide that collar out of there and pull this wire out. And that's the horn wire. Might not be a bad idea to put a new wire in there. That's been in there since 1955. It's getting a little brittle on the edges there, so that might be something I'm going to do, is cut a new piece of wire and put in there. Okay, I don't know if you can see that really good. It looks like the collar is right at the edge of that slot. The book says to measure it, but I mean it's right on the edge of that slot, so I really don't have to do any measuring. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that right now. Okay, I got the solder off and everything, and this ring here, this copper ring, is mounted in rubber to insulate it. And what I did was I used some wet and dry sandpaper and I cleaned this whole shaft off. And I kind of soaked this area with some penetrating oil and got it all lubed up. And I had to tap it initially pretty good to get it started, but once it started going and got into that lubricated area, it just slides real easy. So I'll probably have to glue the thing back on. But so we got that off, and it's pretty cruddy looking, so we're going to have to clean that up. But now I can get my get the rest of the shaft out of the unit here, so that'll be the next thing. The first thing I got to do is unstake this nut a little bit, and I'm going to try to get under there with a center punch. Kind of lift that stake up a little bit. See if I can get that to come up somewhat. Looks like it's up quite a ways right now. Do have a special tool for that, but it's about wore out. Okay, now I can proceed with taking that nut off. Alright, I got the staking off, and I tried holding it with a vice grip and that didn't work. One thing I want to remind you is that this tube shaft is hollow up to this point where there's a little ridge, and that's where it's welded to the solid part here. So you do not clamp here. You're going to ruin your shaft. So you got to clamp from here to here, and you don't want to get into that because that's a seal area. So I was able to get it to come loose. So now I'll be able to complete the disassembly. Okay, my goal here is to get all this stuff off of the shaft. And I don't want to lose all these little pins and everything, so I want to try to remove this as a unit. That's my goal anyway. We'll see how well I do. It looks like it's coming out pretty well. Obviously you can't see it, but I'm pulling up the end of the shaft. I'm just going to set it on the workbench so it doesn't fall apart. Okay. We'll slide this off. Another bearing. And theoretically this should all come out the other end. Okay, what happened was the shaft came out so far it went by the seal, so I had to shove it back past the seal again. I believe it's all coming out now. There's my gasket. And boy, what a gooey mess. Excuse me. Pull the shaft out. So now I have it totally disassembled, except for my power section. The main goal is now to get apart far enough I can get this thing washed up to actually see what I got. That oil, like I say, has been in there a while, and it is black and stinky and gooey and sticky, so hard to work with. So I can get it all cleaned up, and then we can inspect all the parts. Alright, I decided to pull the seal out before I wash this thing up. Now, the only thing I can say is be really careful, is because this thing bottoms out in this housing, but right on the other side is this Torrington bearing, needle bearing. I guess it's a needle bearing. And you don't want to get under the wrong spot and wreck that bearing, so make sure you get right under the seal. And I just kind of did that around and worked it out and then popped it out. But yeah, you don't want to damage that bearing. So now this end seal where the pitman arm shaft and stuff goes, this seal did not come out very well. As you can see, I've damaged a lot of seals in my day, you know, taking them out. But what I had to do is take this curved chisel and go along the side and actually cut the side of the seal down to get it loosened up. And then I was able to get a screwdriver under it. I've tried my fancy dancy snap-on seal puller, and all it did was rip it. So you gotta do what you gotta do to get them out. Just hopefully you don't damage anything while you're doing it. And I think that's the last gasket and seal on that housing. So we'll move on from there.